So, what happens when a digital world that's built on this amazing promise of player ownership starts to feel a lot more like a cash grab? Today, we're diving into Upland, a giant in the metaverse space, and a growing number of its players who are saying that its core promise has been broken.
You gotta admit, the initial concept was electric. It was simple, powerful, and it tapped right into that whole digital land rush. It really made you feel like you were getting in on the ground floor of something huge, a real living economy in the metaverse.
All right, so let's talk about that initial promise. What was the vision that got so many people so excited? The vision they got into, both literally and figuratively, right from the jump. Well, here it is. The core appeal was all about empowerment. This wasn't just pitched as another game, it was sold as a genuine opportunity. A world where your own strategy, your own creativity could build real, actual value over time.
But that's where the story starts to take a turn. According to the sources we looked at, that focus began to shift. Players started to see a pattern emerging, one that seems to care a whole lot more about sales than it did about the actual gameplay.
And here is the absolute heart of the criticism. It wasn't a one-off thing. It was this consistent cycle. First, a super exciting new feature gets announced, to build up all the hype. Next, assets get sold based on that potential. But then, the actual gameplay, the utility, it gets delayed. And what happens next? Well, that's when the next big sale gets announced.
And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. The sources point to really specific, concrete examples. We're talking about planes being sold for a travel mechanic that never materialized, semi-trucks for a logistics economy that just doesn't exist. Even big concepts like city mayors and park development just seem to have completely stalled out. It's become, well, a metaverse of placeholders.
When a platform is constantly selling new features before it even delivers on the old ones, that sends a really powerful message. The argument here is that the focus has totally shifted from building a game to just building a cash register.
Now, this pattern didn't just affect the game itself, it had a real human impact. Let's take a look at how the entire mindset of the player base really started to change because of all this. Man, this one comment from the community just seems to capture the entire vibe perfectly. You can feel the frustration just boiling over into pure sarcasm right there. Break even is winning now? Oof. And you can see the result of that feeling right here. Player expectations have been, well, systematically lowered. The whole mindset went from asking, how do I win, to how do I just stop losing? That's a huge shift from looking for opportunity to just trying to do damage control. Now, this change in mindset, it's not just a feeling. The sources argue it's rooted in some very real and very broken economic mechanics inside the game. So let's actually look at the numbers. Okay, let's take a specific example here. There's a system called Influence. The whole idea is you can spend about $15 to slightly boost your property's earnings. But, does the math on that actually work out for the player? Is it worth it?
And wow, when you run the numbers, it's pretty wild. You spend $15 to make an extra 90 cents a year. At that rate, it would take you 17 years just to break even on that one purchase. And that's assuming literally nothing else changes in the game. 17 years? This quote right here just hits the nail on the head. It really gets to the core of the frustration. Players feel like they're on a treadmill. The price to get ahead keeps going up, but the actual rewards, they stay the same. You're basically paying more and more just to stand still. And this feeling of paying more for less, it doesn't stop with the core economy. The sources we looked at argue this whole placeholder pattern extends to pretty much everything, from huge blockbuster partnerships all the way down to the game's own features. I mean, Upland has announced some massive partnerships, right? We're talking the NFL Players Association, FIFA, the Sandbox. These are huge names. And yeah, these announcements created tons of hype and drove a lot of sales. But the criticism is always about the follow-through. After the sale is over, any real, meaningful, long-term gameplay just never seems to show up. This image really says it all, doesn't it? You've got all the big logos, all the hype, and then right there in the middle, the main theme, promise utility later. The argument is that these partnerships became less about building a world and more about creating a temporary burst of excitement just to fuel the next sale.
And you know, what might be even more telling is what's been taken away. Features that actually built a community, things like the social feed, live events, tools for creators, they've been sidelined or, in some cases, just flat out removed. And the suspected reason? Well, they don't directly lead to a sale. So, when you put it all together, the unfinished features, the shallow partnerships, the removed community tools, you're left with this one fundamental question. Is all this money being raised to build a deep, rich, engaging metaverse? Or has the platform itself just become a machine designed to fund the next sale? That question? Well, that's the very heart of Upland's broken promise.